Hello everyone, my name is Lacey, this is Lieutenant Dan, and you are watching Reptiles. Hello. It is probably, I think it's August when this video comes out, so hooray. Also look, there's a goose. I don't know that she's been on before, but everyone say hello to the goose. She's cool. She's got diabetes. We love her. She is the goose. There's a Sylvester around here somewhere too, so if you hear meowing, that's him. He's a chatty Cathy. But today, I'm not here to tell you about my cats, although they are really sweet. And Lieutenant Dan, also sweet man, little gentleman that he is. No, today, I would like to tell you about the kinds of things that sweet potatoes like this eat. So snakes eat a variety of things, like not people. Lieutenant Dan here, Segment, and John Cena, they typically eat rats. Daniel here eats a small rat. John, she eats a medium rat. And Segment will eat like a fuzzy, like a little guy, because she's a little gal. But they can eat more than just rodents. John Cena, I've been toying around with the idea with also getting some quail for her to try, to see how she likes that, because boas are not as picky as ball pythons. Ball pythons are notorious for finding their food that they like and never eating anything else ever again, and making everyone's lives a little difficult if they get hooked on a different food, because then they never want to eat anything else. I'm very fortunate. Daniel here is a rat man. Rats are easy to get a hold of. There's some snakes though that they have a little bit more of a specific diet, or they might eat or prefer things that are a little more difficult to get a hold of. For example, a snake that has a very different diet is the African egg-eating snake. They eat eggs. That's their primary diet. They eat eggs. And as adults, it can be pretty easy to find their food. You just go to the grocery store and you get some eggs and you feed them an egg, like a straight up chicken egg. But when they're little, that's when it's a little bit harder to find their food, because then you have to go and find a way to source like quail eggs and slowly increasing the size of the egg, because when they're born, they're very little. But once you get them to an adult, it's so easy to find an egg, right? So easy to find an egg. But the problem comes when they're small and they have to eat very small eggs. Another thing that some fish like to eat, fish. Something like a mangrove snake or a false water cobra. You can go to the grocery store and you can get them like tilapia fillets. And they'll eat rodents too, but they like some fish because they are around the water a lot. They are in areas where fish is prevalent and they have a higher access to fish. So it's a reasonable approach to feed those types of snakes fish. Then you get into hognose snakes. They are amphibian eaters, like frogs. And while you can get them moved over to rodents pretty easily. When they're little, it can be hard to get them to start eating because they want to eat amphibians, frogs and salamanders and stuff, small things that they can eat. And some breeders have to go so far as to scent their rodents with like frog scent, or like rub them on a frog or something if they have a frog available, and feed it to them that way so they smell like the thing they want to eat. So, that can be a little difficult, but once you get them on rodents, it's fine. And then there's the kinds of snakes that have one of the most heartbreaking meals for anyone who keeps reptiles or snakes, and that would be something like a cobra or maybe even a black-headed python on occasion. They like to eat other snakes. So finding and sourcing snakes, to feed your snake, one can imagine might be kind of difficult. You would need to either have a ton of money to buy feeder snakes, or you would have to know a breeder and hopefully be able to take any snakes that died out of the egg, were stillborn, but that only works for so long, because something like a king cobra can get like 15 feet long, and a little tiny dead hatchling isn't gonna cut it. So at that point, you need to be able to source adult-sized snakes for your cobra to eat. Kind of hard to do, unless you just have know a bunch of people with really old snakes that die like every now and again, or if you, let's say, live in Florida and you can go on the hunts down in the Everglades to get to catch and kill Burmese pythons and retics, since they are invasive in the Everglades. That is what some of the venom boys in Florida do, is they will hunt the wild invasive species, throw them in a freezer to make sure they kill any sort of organisms that are living in the wild snake so their cobra doesn't get sick, and then feed that off. Don't worry, Daniel, I'm not gonna feed you to anybody. But that being said, they can eat other things besides snakes, but you want to try to keep their meals a lot more lean, because it has been shown that snakes that in the wild have a varied diet, like being snake eaters. They need to have a low fat diet, let's say, because these fattier animals, richer animals like rodents, can cause premature death via fatty liver disease, which is wild, because people get fatty liver disease, and you wouldn't think that a snake could get fatty liver disease from eating too many rodents and not enough fish or snake or bird. Yeah, because snakes and birds and fish are sources of lean protein, unlike rodents, which have a little bit more fat on them. There are also such wonderful little cutie pies as thread snakes, ringneck snakes, worm snakes, itty bitty little guys. And they don't eat any of that because they eat bugs. They eat insects. They are free insect control. And a snake like that would be hard to keep in captivity, because then you have to source a bunch of bugs or breed a bunch of bugs. And I don't see a lot of people keeping average people keeping like a cricket colony or a worm colony. I mean, people do it. People who like to go fishing, people with lizards, but that could, or going to your local reptile shop and getting some insects. But that can be kind of hard, because it's my understanding that right now there is a huge shortage of insect feeders in the country. I'm not entirely sure why. I haven't looked into it because, well, none of my animals eat insects. But there was someone, the local news station interviewed the guys over at Frog Family about this national shortage of insect feeders. But that is all for today, folks. What kind of snakes do you have? What do your snakes like to eat? Because mine are all very boring and they like rats. And like I said, I might try to find John Cena some quail for her to try, because I think that would be really fun for her and a really interesting thing for her to try, a good source of enrichment. So what do you feed your snakes, your lizards? What you got going on? Let me know. And as always, friends, never stop learning, because a mind is a terrible thing to waste. See ya.